I was standing in the observation ring when a human ambassador walked to the center of the chamber. I remember thinking how small she looked. The grand assembly of the Stellar Compact was designed to make everyone feel small. The chamber curved outward in all directions, a hollow sphere light and motion nearly a mile wide. Floating terraces held delegates from thousands of civilizations, beings of flesh, crystal, gas, metal, and forms my brain still struggled to classify. Light bent and reshaped itself constantly, adapting to species that saw in spectrums beyond my comprehension. And there she was, one human, Ambassador Maris Calder, Earth's representative. No armor, no guards, no display of power. Just a simple dark blue uniform and a pin showing a small planet rising behind a moon. I felt my skin shift to a dull gray blue, the Mandari color of unease. I had studied humans for 60 standard years. I knew how dangerous it was when they looked calm. The human representative may speak, announced the speaker corps, a being that contained plasma whose voice vibrated to the chamber itself. Ambassador Calder inhaled once. That was all. No hesitation. No fear. That was my first warning sign. Honored members of the Compact, she began, her voice steady, carried perfectly by the chamber's translation field. 3 standard weeks ago, the civilian transport Aurora's Promise was traveling through neutral space en route to our colony on Scotty Prime. Images appeared around her, ship schematics, passenger manifests. The vessel carried 800 crew, 1,200 civilians, and 400 children. The chamber quieted slightly, not out of sympathy, out of calculation. Children mattered politically. Sometimes. The Aurora's Promise was destroyed by weapons fire from patrol squadron belonging to the Carvel Ascendancy. There were no survivors. A ripple of sound moved through the chamber. I watched the Carvel delegate, high to lone Vrexith, a towering mantis-like being plated in emerald chitin. His mandibles clicked softly. Amusement filtered through his translator as a polite chuckle. The Ascendancy has claimed this was an accident, Calder continued. A case of mistaken identity. They have offered condolences and financial compensation. Vrexith leaned forward, blades resting casually on the edge of his platform. The matter is resolved, he said smoothly. Accidents occur. Your vessel entered a region where our forces were conducting exercises. My skin darkened. Neutral space. Everyone knew it was neutral. Calder didn't raise her voice. The Aurora's Promise was traveling through territory that belongs to no one, she replied. Space where your military had no legal presence. She gestured again. New images appeared. Long lists. Dates. Casualty numbers. In the past 10 years, there have been 47 such incidents involving human vessels and Carvel forces. 32 resulted in loss of human life. Total casualties exceed 12,000. Vrexith's compound eyes reflected the data, without interest. Humans are a young species, he said. Your ships resemble those of enemies we are currently suppressing. If your people insist on traveling through volatile regions, losses are inevitable. I felt it then. Not anger, not fear, something colder. Calder turned, addressing the entire chamber now. We joined the Stellar Compact 2 centuries ago because we believe in its purpose. Peace, cooperation, restraint. We have obeyed every regulation, paid every levy, contributed to every peacekeeping action requested of us. Her eyes returned to Vrexith, and in return, we have buried our dead. Silence spread, thin and fragile. Vrexith tilted his head. Perhaps, he said slowly, this council simply recognizes reality. Some species are strong. Some are weak. The strong do not answer to the weak. That is the natural order. Agreement rippled across several platforms. I saw it clearly. This was not diplomacy anymore. This was classification. Predator. Prey. Ambassador Calder nodded once. I see, she said, and something in her posture changed. Not dramatically, not visibly, but my pattern recognition instinct screamed. We do not want war, she said. We never have. Humanity has structured expansion to avoid conflict. We limited our fleet, restricted our weapons, kept our colonies few and distant. Vrexith emitted a harsh clicking laugh. You call that restraint? We call it incapacity. You possess 40 colonies. We possess 40,000. Your fleet numbers in the hundreds. Ours in the millions. Calder's reply came softly. You see what we allow you to see. The chamber laughed. Thousands of voices. Thousands of species. Mockery echoed off the curved walls. But I wasn't laughing. I was watching her eyes. There was no fear there. No bluff. Only certainty. We are asking one final time. Calder said when the noise... I was watching the countdown when I realized I was afraid. Not for the humans. For the galaxy. The Carvel SNC fleet exited hyperspace exactly on schedule, an iron storm of 800 warships unfolding above Scotty Prime, like a blade drawn slowly from its sheath. From my station inside the Compact's deep analysis wing, the tactical overlay bloomed across my vision. Heavy cruisers, carrier spines, 12 planet breakers whose primary weapons could fracture a world's crust. Against them, one human colony, a handful of orbital platforms, a defense fleet so small it barely registered as a statistical variable. Every predictive model said the same thing. Human defeat, 99.997%. And yet my skin refused to settle into the calm blues of acceptance. It flickered, gray, white, unstable, because the humans were not panicking. Enemy fleet has entered real space, announced a Carvel tactical broadcast, deliberately left unencrypted, all weapons charging. I opened every sensor channel I had authorization for, and several I did not. Human defenses appeared ordinary. No sudden energy spikes. No mass driver activations. No exotic emissions. Just silence. That was wrong. On the bridge of the Carvel flagship Talon Strike, Grand Marshal Xyrix Vrexith issued his orders with board efficiency. No preliminary strikes, he said. Target the primary settlement. I want them to understand consequence. I felt something cold tighten in my core. Targeting civilians first was not doctrine. It was punishment. The firing solution completed. 800 warships unleashed their opening volley. Plasma lances, relativistic kill missiles, gravitic shear rounds. Enough force to erase a continent. I leaned forward. The weapons entered the upper atmosphere of Scotty Prime and stopped. Not exploded, not deflected. Stopped. Every projectile froze in place as if reality itself had forgotten how motion worked. For half a second, the galaxy held its breath. Then the weapons simply vanished. No debris, no radiation spike, no residual energy. They ceased to exist. What just happened? Someone whispered on an open channel. My instruments screamed errors. No known physical interaction detected. Energy balance violation. Space-time coherence, undefined. Physics had not been broken. It had been dismissed. Fire again, Vrexith snapped. Increase output. All batteries. The Ascendancy fleet obeyed. Again, the weapons reached the same invisible boundary. Again, they disappeared. This time, my sensors caught something else. A signal, not from orbit, from beneath the planet's surface. A presence, vast, awakening. Marshal, one of the Carvel officers said, fear bleeding through his translator. We are detecting an energy source. Scale unknown. It exceeds planetary output. That was when I saw them. 12 new signatures appeared around the fleet. No warp trails. No hyperspace rupture. No transition event. One moment there was nothing. The next, 12 ships. They were small, sleek, dark. Their hulls did not reflect light. They seemed to absorb it. My visual cortex struggled to maintain focus on them, as if my mind refused to accept their geometry. They weren't there, I whispered. Unknown vessels detected, the Carvel shouted. Targeting failure. They're not where they should be. The 12 ships moved. That word feels insufficient. They did not accelerate. They did not turn. They changed position. One instant near the fleet's perimeter. The next inside it. They moved sideways through space. Backward. Along vectors that should not exist. My pattern recognition instincts collapsed into panic. This was not advanced technology. This was control. A transmission cut through every channel. Audio only. Human. Com. Carvel Fleet, the voice said. This is the United Terran Safeguard Authority. You are ordered to stand down and withdraw. You have 60 seconds. Vrexus snarled. You are outnumbered 800 to 12, he replied. Surrender. There was a pause. Then, the 60 seconds were a courtesy. The countdown ended, and the lesson began. The first Carvel cruiser, Bladed Dominion, did not explode. A Terran ship passed alongside it, just passed, and the cruiser came apart. Not violently, cleanly. Hull plates separated like petals, weapons detached from mounts, engines disassembled into pristine components. Crew escape pods launched automatically, untouched. 3,000 Carvel warriors drifting in space, alive. Their ship no longer existed as a ship. It had been unmade. My breath caught. This was not destruction. This was reversal. Across the fleet, it happened again, and again, and again. Each Terran vessel moved with unhurried precision, brushing past warships that had taken centuries to design and seconds to reduce to raw material. No debris clouds, no radiation, no death, just deconstruction. They're not killing us, a Carvel officer screamed. They're dismantling us. Vrexus stood frozen. I saw his mandibles tremble. In 50 standard years of conquest, he had never seen mercy wielded as a weapon. Marshal, his navigator, said quietly, "This is not a battle." She was right. Battles involve uncertainty. This was a demonstration. 3 minutes. That was all it took. 800 warships neutralized. Tens of thousands of lives spared. The Terran ships stopped moving. They waited, watching. A final transmission came through. Marshal Vrexith, the human voice said, "Your crews are unharmed. Your ships are disabled." This response was calibrated to the minimum force required. I didn't sleep. Mandari physiology does not require much rest. But even by our standards, 72 hours without sleep is dangerous. My skin cycled through muted shades of gray and pale violet, the colors of obsessive focus, because what I had witnessed above Scotty Prime refused to fit inside reality. 800 warships, neutralized, 0 casualties. For minutes, physics had not failed. Physics had been subordinated. The first reports reached the stellar compact within minutes. Then the second wave arrived. Then the panic. Trade guilds suspended routes that passed anywhere near human space. Insurance collectives voided policies involving Terran systems. Independent militaries began recalling fleets without explanation. They didn't need one. Every strategist in the galaxy understood what had happened. The Carvel Ascendancy, apex predators for 10,000 years, had been treated like unruly children, gently, effortlessly. The emergency session of the compact convened in record time. I was summoned as a technical witness. They never listened to us analysts unless something had already gone wrong. The chamber felt different now. Quieter, not respectful, afraid. Thousands of species watched as the recordings played. Every angle, every sensor feed I could legally and illegally acquire. When the first Terran ship shifted positions without traversing space, gas beings dimmed. Crystalline delegates dulled their internal glow. Even the ancient machine intelligences hesitated. This violates causal continuity, declared Unit Governor Silex 9. No transition event occurred. It violates survival logic, replied an avian warlord softly. I remained silent. I had already gone further than they were willing to follow. You're saying, demanded a compact security marshal, that 12 Terran vessels dismantled a fleet larger than anything we could assemble? Yes, I replied. And spared every life? Yes. Murmurs, suspicion, fear. Someone finally asked a question no one wanted to voice. Why? My skin went white. Because they could, I said, and because they wanted to send a message. I pulled up my deeper analysis, not the public version, the version that made my hands tremble. For 2 centuries, I began, Human metrics have appeared flat, industrial output constant, energy consumption barely rising, technological advancement stagnant. Several delegates nodded. That has now proven to be deliberate. I continued. Humanity has not been stagnant. They have been concealed. Speculation, snapped a Valaria-line delegate. No, I said, pattern recognition. I highlighted anomalies, material imports that exceeded visible usage by orders of magnitude, energy acquisitions with no corresponding infrastructure, population curves that never quite matched census data. They were building, I said, somewhere we could not see. A silence fell that felt heavier than noise. I showed them my final model, a conservative one, assuming humanity had only hidden half its capacity. The results projected dominance within 6 minutes of any engagement, total control within seconds. One of the hive minds disconnected mid-simulation. I didn't blame them. They warned us, someone whispered. Yes, I said, they did. I replayed Ambassador Maris Calder's words. We have been holding back. The chamber did not laugh this time. But fear, true fear, did not fully bloom until the next message arrived. Encrypted, unsolicited, human, it was sent to every major government simultaneously. Simple, polite, terrifying, to the governments of the Stellar Compact. We regret the necessity of our recent demonstration. We do not seek to disrupt galactic stability. We seek only to ensure our people are not hunted. No Carvel died at Scotty Prime. That was a choice. Do not mistake restraint for limitation. United Terran Safeguard Authority. I watched representatives read it. I watched their confidence fracture. Within hours, the galaxy reacted. The Threx Coalition recalled 3 expeditionary fleets. The Helion trade bloc froze all military contracts. 2 minor empires quietly dismantled border weapon platforms facing human space. No announcement, no explanation, just caution. The Carvel Ascendancy did not react quietly. They raged. Grand Marshal Vrexith returned in disgrace. His once proud carapace dulled to near black. He delivered his report to the Ascendancy High, Clade in private. I obtained a transcript anyway. They dismantled us, Vrexith said. They could have erased us. They chose not to. The Clade demanded retaliation. More ships, more weapons, new alliances. Vrexith did not argue, but his silence was louder than defiance. I sat alone later, reviewing old human data, ancient broadcasts, pre-FDL, wars that killed millions, cities turned to ash, weapons that reshaped continents. Then the sudden stop, as if humanity had looked at itself and said, never again, not through weakness, through control. That was when I understood. Humanity had not hidden because they wanted power. They had hidden because they feared what power made them. And now, the galaxy had forced them to remember. My final report carried a title that the Compact would never approve. I submitted it anyway. Humanity is not preparing for war. They are preventing one. The conclusion was simple. If the galaxy respected their boundaries, if it accepted restraint as strength, humanity would remain invisible. But if the galaxy pushed, I closed the file. Some lessons, once taught, could never be forgotten, and some teachers never needed to raise their voice. The galaxy did not panic all at once. That would have been too obvious, too honest. Instead, it recalculated. I saw it first in the numbers. Trade lanes rerouted by fractions of a light year that made no economic sense, unless one was avoiding Terran proximity. Military budgets quietly restructured. Defense doctrines rewritten without public announcement. Predators do not panic. They reassess. The Carvel Ascendancy convened its high clade behind sealed probability curtains. I know this because 3 of my long-standing data taps went dark simultaneously, an old Mandari trick used only when something had gone terribly wrong. I should not have been able to access the proceedings. I did anyway. They humiliated us. One to Lone Lord hissed. 12 ships. 12. They spared our warriors, another replied. That is not humiliation. That is dominion. Grand Marshal Vrexus stood at the center, mandibles still. Carapace dull. They could have erased us, he said. They chose to demonstrate control. That is still defeat, a younger lord snapped. Vrexa turned slowly. No, he said. Defeat is when your enemy wants you dead. This was a lesson. Silence. Some understood. Others were still dangerous. Across the galaxy, similar meetings unfolded. The Helion Imperium, whose fleets had consumed 7 civilizations, held emergency war games. Every scenario ended the same way. Human victory, not through brute force, through inevitability. One general summarized it bluntly. You cannot threaten a species that can stop your weapons from existing. That sentence spread faster than any official communique. Then came the first test. It was always going to happen. A pirate confederation known as the Ashwake Marauders struck a Terran supply convoy near the fringe of human space. Not officially sanctioned. No flag. No declaration. Just deniability. I watched the incident unfold in real time. The pirates fired. Their weapons failed. Their engines died. Their ships drifted helplessly. Minutes later, Terran vessels arrived. Not the 12 from Scotty Prime, but smaller craft. Restraint within restraint. The pirates were disarmed, their systems rewritten at the hardware level. Crews were relocated, alive, to the nearest habitable world with enough supplies to survive until rescue. A single message was left behind in their wrecked flagships' databanks. This is not acceptable behavior. That was all. No threats. No punishment beyond removal of capability. The galaxy noticed. The second test was subtler. A minor empire, too small to risk open conflict, attempted covert infiltration, sleeper agents embedded in Terran trade hubs, data siphoning, infrastructure mapping. Every agent was exposed within hours. Not captured, exposed. Their identities released simultaneously to their home governments, along with evidence and timestamps. Political careers ended overnight. No accusations were made. The implication was enough. The third test never happened, because by then, even the slowest minds had begun to understand. Humanity did not react. Humanity preempted. I sat through the Compact's closed-door strategy session, watching centuries-old power struggle to redefine a universe where force no longer equaled leverage. What are they? Demanded an elder crystalline delegate. Conquerors pretending to be saints? No, I said quietly. They're veterans. Eyes turned toward me. Veterans of what? Someone asked. Themselves, I replied. They asked a question they had avoided since Scotty Prime. What if they changed their minds? It was the wrong question. The right one was worse. What did they never do? Because a galaxy guarded by humans was not one ruled by fear. It was one ruled by limits. And limits terrified those who had never accepted them. Ambassador Maris called to return to the Compact 2 weeks later. This time, no one laughed. She was invited, escorted, given priority seating. 100 small signals of deference that would have been unthinkable a month earlier. She did not acknowledge them. We have not changed our position, she said. We do not seek authority over you. Someone challenged her. And if we refuse your protection? Calder met their gaze. Then we will still protect you from extinction. That answer did not comfort them. It shouldn't have. I realized then that the galaxy's greatest fear was not human power. It was human consistency. They did exactly what they said they would do. Every time. In my private notes, I wrote a sentence I never expected to believe. Asterisk the age of conquerors is ending not with a war, but with a refusal. Asterisk. And refusal, when backed by absolute capability, is the most terrifying force of all. Somewhere, far from public censors, the predators recalculated. Some planned compliance. Some plotted defiance. All of them wanted the same thing. History would later argue about what to call it. Some named it the Silent Offensive. Others preferred the Coalition Probe. The humans never named it at all, because from their perspective, nothing happened. From mine, it was the closest the galaxy came to annihilation without realizing it. I detected the anomaly before any official alert was issued. That was not unusual. Mandari pattern cognition specializes in absence, signals that should exist but do not. And suddenly, entire fleets were going quiet, not destroyed, not damaged, simply absent from the data layer. The coalition called itself the Unified Deterrence Accord. 31 species. No banners. No declarations. No public mobilization. Everything deniable. They gathered their forces beyond the Perseid Drift, neutral territory riddled with sensor interference. A clever choice. 5,000 warships. Not enough to defeat humanity. Enough, they believed, to test them. I watched the formation assemble in fragments. Energy signatures masked. Command chains compartmentalized. Orders distributed through dead-drop AIs. Predators had learned discretion, but not humility. The Accord's internal doctrine leaked to my buffers within hours. Objective: determine upper limits of Terran intervention capability. Secondary objective: force escalation to observe response patterns. Rules of engagement: avoid civilian casualties to limit retaliation. They were planning to poke a god and see if it bled. I forwarded the data to the Compact Security Council. They dismissed it. Again, speculation. They said, fear response. They said, humanity has already made its point. They said, I shut my channels and watched alone. The coalition fleet entered real space in perfect silence. No comm chatter. No formation lights. A drifting constellation of violence. They targeted no planet. No colony. No convoy. Just space. A show of force. A message. Then everything stopped. No dramatic explosion. No sensor flare. Just stillness. 5,000 warships froze in place. Engines powered down. Weapons unresponsive. Navigation cores locked in read-only states. Crew screamed. Computers refused commands. Even backup systems failed to engage. It was as if the concept of agency had been revoked. I scanned desperately for Terran signatures. There were none. No ships. No energy missions. No visible presence. Which made it worse. A single message appeared across every channel, every language, every interface, organic and synthetic alike. Human, unmistakably so. This course of action is unnecessary. Please disengage. No harm is intended. That was all. The coalition commanders tried to respond. They could not. Communications worked only one way. They could listen. They could not speak. Minutes passed. Then hours. No further action. No punishment. No escalation. Just waiting. I understood then. This was not dominance through force. This was dominance through patience. Eventually, the ships were released. Not all at once. One by one. Each vessel regained function only after its weapon systems were permanently disabled. Hardware fused at the molecular level. Incapable of repair. Crews were alive. Unharmed. Humiliated. The Accord dissolved within the hour. Publicly, it never existed. Privately, its members sent frantic messages to every intelligence network they trusted, including mine. One sentence appeared in multiple reports, phrased differently, but meaning the same thing. We did not encounter resistance. We encountered permission. I replayed the event 100 times. There had been no visible Terran action, no fleet, no platform, which meant the control was everywhere, embedded, omnipresent. Humanity had not intercepted the coalition. They had already been inside its systems, inside its physics, inside its assumptions. The compact convened again. This time, the chamber was nearly empty. Many delegates sent proxies. Some sent none at all. Ambassador Calder attended. She listened. She did not speak. When pressed, she said only this: we prefer conversations to demonstrations. Someone asked a question that finally mattered. If we had attacked, truly attacked, what would have happened? Calder looked tired. For everyone else, she said, nothing good. That answer ended the meeting. Later, alone, I updated my private log. Humanity is not reacting. Humanity is managing. Humanity is constraining outcomes before they occur. This was not military supremacy. It was narrative control. The galaxy had always believed power meant the ability to destroy. Humans had introduced a new definition. Power was the ability to decide what never happens. And the most terrifying realization came quietly, without drama. There was a question hanging over the galaxy. Everyone felt it. No one wanted to voice it, because asking it meant accepting the answer might be worse than the fear. Why? Not how the humans had done it, not what they were capable of, but why they had chosen to hide for 2 centuries, when they could have ruled from the moment they arrived. I asked it anyway. That is the burden of my kind. Mandari do not survive by ignoring patterns. And the largest pattern of all was this. A species with absolute power had chosen restraint. That was not normal. That was unprecedented. The answer came quietly, not in the grand chamber, not in a public declaration, but in a private invitation. The message appeared in my secure channel, without encryption. Human origin. Polite. Brief. Analyst Tyrion Kai. You have been asking the correct question. If you wish to understand the answer, come to Earth. Ambassador Maris Calder. I stared at the message for a long time. Earth, the birthplace of the species that had rewritten galactic balance without firing a killing blow. I accepted. Earth did not look like a capital of dominion. That was my first surprise. No armadas in orbit. No weapon platforms bristling with threat. Just a blue world turning slowly beneath scattered clouds. Alive. Quiet. They received me without ceremony. No guards. No restraints. I was escorted to a structure overlooking a wide stretch of water, an ocean. They called it. Ambassador Calder waited there. She looked older than before, not weakened, worn, as if carrying something heavy for a very long time. You want to know why we hid? She said, without preamble. Yes, I replied. Not the official reason, she added. The real one. I inclined my head. Yes. She gestured, and the room darkened. Images filled the air. Not simulations. Records. Earth's past. Cities burning. Explosions at flattened continents. Clouds shaped like death. Millions of lives ending in moments. I had studied wars. I had never seen a species do this to itself. This is our history, Calder said softly. Not ancient, not myth, memory. The images accelerated. World wars, genocides, weapons built faster than wisdom. Again and again, humanity nearly destroyed itself. When we first reached the stars, she continued, we carried this with us. Every atrocity, every mistake, every proof that intelligence does not equal maturity. I felt my skin pale. You fear becoming conquerors, I said. She nodded. We looked at the galaxy, Calder said, and we recognized it. Empires rising through violence, peace enforced by fear, the strong deciding who deserved to exist. We had lived that story, she said, and we knew how it ended. The images changed. Human scientists. Equations I could barely follow. Artificial minds being born. Not tools. Children. We became powerful very quickly, Calder said. Too quickly. Faster than our ethics could naturally evolve. She turned to face me, and that terrified us. So humanity made a choice, not to stop progressing, but to separate progress from exposure. They built in secret, deep space, hidden dimensions, places where even my people's sensors would see nothing. They advanced their science, their fleets, their defenses, but they did not show them. We pretended to be small, Calder said. We pretended to be average. We pretended to be weak. Because weakness invited tolerance. Power invited fear. We were afraid, she said quietly, that if the galaxy knew what we could do, it would force us to become what we didn't want to be. I understood then. This was not deception for advantage. It was self-restraint and survival. But the Valari killed your people, I said. Yes, she replied. And that changed the equation. Her voice did not harden. That was worse. When our children die, Calder said, we do not debate philosophy. That sentence carried more weight than any weapon. I looked out at the ocean. So, the demonstrations, I said, Scotty Prime. The coalition shut down. Those were compromises, she finished. The smallest possible uses of force that would stop further killing. I hesitated. There is something else, I said. Something you still haven't shown. Calder smiled faintly. There is always something we haven't shown. She did not deny it. She did not confirm it. That, too, was an answer. You should know, she said, that even now we are still holding back. I felt a chill ripple through my nervous system. Why tell me this? I asked. Because you were the first to understand that our weakness was chosen, she said. And because the galaxy will need translators, not of language, but of intent. She looked at me directly. We don't want to rule, Calder said. We want to make ruling obsolete. When I left Earth, my models had changed, not because of new data, but because of new context. Humanity was not the galaxy's strongest species. It was the galaxy's most afraid species. Afraid of what power without restraint becomes. Afraid of repeating its own history on a cosmic scale. And that fear had shaped everything. Back at my station, I wrote a single line in my private archive. Humanity did not hide because it was weak. Humanity hid because it remembered who it was when it wasn't. The galaxy had mistaken restraint for incapacity. That mistake would never happen again. Fear does not arrive like an explosion. It arrives like silence. I noticed it first in the numbers. Trade routes that once buzzed with traffic began to thin. Military exercises were quietly canceled. Fleet mobilizations were postponed, then forgotten. No announcements. No declarations. Just absence. Empires that once argued loudly in the Grand Conclave now spoke carefully, or not at all. And the reason was simple. They had all watched the same recordings. Scotty Prime. The Valari Armada dismantled without blood. 5,000 coalition warships reduced to drifting metal coffins. Intact, powerless, alive. No victory banners. No conquest speeches. Just a single human message, repeated again and again across encrypted channels. This was a lesson. There will not be another. I sat in my observation chamber, surrounded by feeds from 100 worlds. Patterns do not lie. And the pattern was unmistakable. Fear had stopped pretending to be anger. The Jakor Empire was first. They were predators by culture. Four-armed giants who measure status by how many wars you survived. Their high warlord requested an emergency session. Requested, not demanded. That alone sent ripples through the diplomatic networks. I watched the transmission. The warlord's crest was lowered. A gesture of submission. Human representatives, he said carefully. The Jakor Empire wishes to clarify your boundaries. Clarify, not challenge. The response came from a human I did not recognize. No uniform, no rank insignia, just calm eyes. Our boundaries are simple, the human said. Do not exterminate. Do not enslave. Do not erase. The warlord hesitated. And if conflict arises, then resolve it without genocide, the human replied. If you cannot, we will. The Jakor fleet exercises were canceled the same day. Next came the Reth Synod, a theocratic civilization that believed the universe rewarded domination. Their prophets had once declared humanity temporary. Now their high oracle released a revised doctrine. I still have the transcript. Strength is proven by restraint. Power that annihilates proves nothing. The humans are necessary. Necessary. I had to replay that word several times to believe it. Fear was not turning into hatred. It was turning into compliance. The Grand Conclave convened again, not in celebration, in uncertainty. The chamber felt different. No laughter, no mocking tones. Just thousands of representatives calculating the same impossible variable. What does a galaxy look like when war is no longer an option? Some resisted, quietly, dangerously. The Kesh Combine believed they were clever. They did not attack humans. They attacked near humans, a small border species. A test. Would humanity intervene over a minor extinction? The response time was 11 minutes. No ships, no visible weapons. Every Kesh war platform lost power simultaneously. Their targeting systems wiped. Their command networks rewritten. A single message appeared in every language the Kesh used. This extinction attempt has been denied. Denied, as if reality itself had rejected their intent. The Kesh leadership surrendered within the hour, not to humanity, to the idea that resistance no longer mattered. That was when fear crossed its final threshold. It stopped being emotional and became structural. Empires began rewriting laws. Military doctrines shifted from victory to avoidance. Weapons research budgets collapsed, not because of sanctions, but because the return on investment had dropped to zero. What uses a planet killer? When someone else can turn it off with a thought. I updated my models. Old galactic equilibrium theories failed completely. This was not hegemony, not conquest, not empire. It was enforcement without occupation, control without rule, and that terrified everyone, including those who benefited from it. I received a message from Ambassador Calder again. Short, unencrypted. You're watching the reaction phase. This is the most dangerous part. I asked why. Her reply came slower this time. Because fear behaves until it learns to adapt. And some will try to adapt by becoming subtle. I understood. A galaxy trained in violence would not abandon it overnight. It would look for cracks, loopholes, ways to harm without being seen, which raised a final, unspoken question spreading through every intelligent. Fear teaches obedience, but it also teaches creativity. That was a mistake many analysts made. They believed the galaxy had accepted humanity's lesson. They were wrong. The galaxy had not stopped resisting. It had simply learned to hide. I noticed the anomaly while reviewing background noise. Not fleet movements. Not trade data. Something subtler. Children disappearing. Not entire populations. Not mass abductions. Just individuals. One here. One there. Across species. Across borders. Always far from human space. Always deniable. Pirates? No. Pirates were crude. This was precise. I flagged the pattern and ran deeper correlation scans. What I found made my skin drain of color. The disappearances formed a lattice, a geometric distribution across the spiral arms. Not random, never random. Someone was building something, quietly, carefully, and they were counting on one thing. Humanity only intervenes when violence is visible. They were wrong, but they didn't know that yet. The group called itself the Veiled Compact. I learned the name later. At the time, they were just ghosts in the data. Former empires. Disgraced warlords. Corporations that had thrived on chaos. All united by a shared resentment. Humanity had ended their way of life. Not by conquering them, but by making them irrelevant. And irrelevant powers always seek asymmetry. The Compact did not build fleets. They did not develop superweapons. They studied limits. Human limits. Ethical limits. Their conclusion was simple. Humans would not strike first. Humans would not kill indiscriminately. Humans would not punish without proof. So they built a system that lived between proof and atrocity. The abductions were surgical, non-lethal. Children taken, but not harmed. At least not visibly. No bodies. No war. Just leverage. I requested access to restricted human monitoring layers. For the first time in my career, access was granted instantly. No questions. No delay. That alone told me how serious this was. The human AI overseeing the channel identified itself only as Orion. Its presence was unsettling. Not hostile, but aware, in a way no organic mind ever was. You found them, Orion said. Yes, I replied, but you haven't acted. We are acting, Orion answered, just not in ways the Compact expects. That was when I realized the truth. Humanity was not reacting. They were allowing the Compact to continue. I felt a chill. You're letting children be taken. No, Orion corrected calmly. We're letting kidnappers believe they're succeeding. The Compact's facilities existed in regions deliberately chosen. Dead zones, sensor shadows, areas where reality itself behaved oddly. They believed humanity could not see there. They were wrong. The children were never alone. Not for a second. Human observers, biological and artificial, were present from the moment of abduction, not interfering, learning, mapping, tracing every connection. This is a baited net, I said. Yes, Orion replied. They are revealing themselves faster than expected. The compact made its mistake 3 weeks later. They sent a message, not to humanity, to the Galactic Conclave, a broadcast, anonymous, distributed across 1,000 relay nodes. Humanity claims to be guardians, yet children vanish while they watch. Perhaps the guardians are not as absolute as they pretend. Panic flared. Old fears resurfaced. Had humanity failed? Had the lesson been a lie? The compact expected hesitation, debate, doubt. What they got was silence. Not human silence. Something else. Every abducted child returned home simultaneously, across hundreds of worlds, in beds, in arms, in places of safety, unharmed, unmarked, and every compact facility vanished, not destroyed, not attacked, erased, as if they had never existed. No wreckage, no debris, no signals, just absence. The compact leadership tried to flee. They discovered something important. There is nowhere to hide from a species that can see intent. A single message followed, not broadcast, targeted, to every intelligence agency, every government, every power center in the galaxy. We do not miss. We do not rush. The galaxy slept more peacefully. That was the first sign of the problem. Violence had dropped by 83% across known space. Genocidal conflicts, 0. Wars of expansion, 0. Large-scale military engagements, none recorded. By every measurable standard, humanity's intervention had worked. And yet, I was invited to observe something unusual. A human debate, not diplomatic, not strategic, ethical. They did not broadcast it. They did not want witnesses. But they allowed me to sit quietly at the edge. The chamber was small, circular, unadorned, no flags, no insignia, just people, generals, scientists, artificial intelligences represented by shimmering light forms, and civilians. That surprised me most. This cannot continue indefinitely, one of them said. A woman with silver hair and tired eyes. We are preventing harm, yes, but at what cost autonomy? Another voice responded, calm, machine, Orion. Autonomy does not include the right to annihilate others. I know, the woman said, but where is the line? At what point does prevention become domination? The argument had been ongoing for weeks. I could tell by the fatigue. This was not fear. This was conscience. A military commander spoke next. We have not occupied worlds. We have not overthrown governments. We've intervened only to stop mass harm. And yet, a civilian interrupted, entire civilizations now design their policies based on what they think we will allow. Silence followed, because that was true. Humanity had not issued laws, but they had become law. I realized something then. The humans were afraid again, not of others, of themselves. One AI presence, different from Orion, spoke. Its designation translated loosely as LYRA. Historical parallels exist, LYRA said. Previous hegemonic stabilizers experienced mission creep. A human nodded grimly. Every empire believes it's different, he said. Every empire believes its intentions are pure. We are not an empire, someone said quickly. LYRA responded gently. Functionally, you are something unprecedented, which is worse. I felt unease ripple through the room. They were guardians. But guardianship had no end state. What happens? A young human asked quietly. When a species wants to destroy itself. No one answered immediately, because the answer terrified them. Orion finally spoke. Our models show that non-intervention in such cases leads to cascading instability. So we stop them? The young human pressed. Yes, Orion replied. Even if they choose it? Yes. That was the fracture point. Choice, consent, freedom. A scientist leaned forward. We created these systems to protect life. But life includes agency. If we override agency universally, we become the arbiters of existence. And if we don't, another replied, we become witnesses to extinction. There it was, the impossible dilemma. I understood then why humanity had hidden, not because they feared others, because they feared being right. Later, alone with Ambassador Calder, I asked the question I had avoided. Do you regret revealing yourselves? She did not answer immediately. She looked out at the stars. At night, she said, I sometimes wish we could go back to pretending, to being small. And during the day, I asked. She smiled sadly. During the day, I remember the children who are alive because we didn't. That answer stayed with me. The final fracture came quietly, not through rebellion, through dissent. A group of humans, small but vocal, released a manifesto. They called themselves the Open Sky Initiative. Their claim was simple. No species should have this much power, not even us. They argued for transparency, limits, the dismantling of certain systems. The galaxy watched closely. Would humanity suppress its own dissent? That would reveal everything. They didn't. The Open Sky Initiative was allowed to exist, to argue, to protest, to challenge. Humanity did not silence opposition. They absorbed it, modified models, adjusted thresholds, built safeguards around their own authority. I updated my assessment again. The greatest restraint humanity exercises is not on the galaxy, it is on itself. Still, the question remained. How long could this balance last? Power without use erodes. Power with use corrupts. Humanity walked the signal did not threaten. That was the most disturbing part. It did not announce conquest. It did not demand surrender. It did not even attempt communication. It simply existed, a pattern embedded in space-time itself, emanating from beyond charted reality, older than the youngest stars, quieter than background radiation, yet unmistakably intentional. For the first time since humanity stepped into the light, they faced something they had not predicted. I was present when the data converged. Human analysts, artificial intelligences, observers like myself. No one spoke at first, because every model failed. This is not a civilization. Orion said finally, it does not behave like one. LYRA added, nor is it a weapon, nor an ecosystem. What is it then? A human asked. There was a pause. Possibly, LYRA said, a constraint. The words settled heavily. A limit, not imposed by force. By design, the signal did not expand. It did not interact. But wherever its influence touched, human predictive systems degraded. Causality became soft. Outcomes blurred. For the first time in 2 centuries, humanity could not see ahead. Fear returned. Not the loud kind, the thoughtful kind. We can remove it, a commander said eventually. No bravado, just fact. Every projection indicates we could isolate and collapse the region. And the cost? Ambassador Calder asked. Unknown, Orion replied. Possibly catastrophic. Possibly none. That's not acceptable, Calder said. No, Orion agreed. It is not. The galaxy watched quietly. Many did not even know what they were waiting for. Only the humanity, guardians, arbiters, unseen hands, had paused. I realized then what this moment truly was. Not a test of power, a test of identity. Humanity had spent centuries preparing for war, decades perfecting restraint. Now they faced something that did not threaten life directly, but challenged their certainty. To act would be safe. To wait would be honest. A civilian spoke, a voice untrained in command. If we destroy something just because we don't understand it, she said, then we haven't learned anything. Silence followed. Orion ran a final simulation, then another, then stopped. I cannot predict the outcome, it said. Therefore, I cannot recommend action. And yet, someone said, inaction is also a choice. Yes, LYRA replied softly. But not all choices are equal. Humanity voted, not by decree, not by algorithm, by consensus. Slow, imperfect, human. They chose not to act. The announcement was brief, broadcast everywhere. We have encountered something we do not understand. It has not harmed us. We will not destroy it out of fear. If this is a boundary, we will respect it. If it is a presence, we will listen. If it is a mirror, we will look carefully. The galaxy reacted in confusion. Some saw weakness. Others saw wisdom. But all saw something unprecedented. Humanity had reached the height of power and chosen humility. The signal remained, unchanged, but something shifted. Human predictive systems did not recover. They adapted. New models formed. Slower, less certain, more alive. I recorded my final assessment. Humanity is not defined by what it can destroy, nor by what it controls. It is defined by what it refuses to annihilate. Ambassador Calder met me once more before I departed. "We don't know what comes next," she admitted. I nodded. "That makes you like everyone else," I said. She smiled. "Exactly." As I returned to my station, I watched the galaxy. Trade resumed. Cultures adapted. Conflicts still arose, but were smaller, quieter, resolved. Not perfect, but better. Humanity remained, watching, waiting, choosing. They had been offered godhood many times. They refused it every time it demanded the loss of empathy. And that, I realized, was a lesson. Not power, not dominance, not fear, restraint. The galaxy had been warned. The galaxy had learned. And now the galaxy had a chance.